Welcome to Papa's Workshop. Today is another day in the shop doing the 3D carving. In some cases, people are calling this 2.5 carving, but either way, it's a lot of fun. And this is what I'm doing. I took a piece of clip art and put it inside of this pocket. I'm taking the Vcarve text and putting it on the curve, and I'm doing a lot of other tips and tricks that you're not going to want to miss out on. So let's get started. I've opened up Vcarve Pro and we're going to create a brand new file. So I'm going to click that. Now, as far as the size, it is going to be a single-sided project. We're going to have the job size at 11.25 by 11.25 by 3/4 of an inch. And this is going to be a premium pine board that I have that was left over from another project. The Z0 position is going to be at the material surface. And I'm going to use the XY datum position right in the center. Now, because this is a modeling project, I have selected the high. And normally, it would start out as a standard. And I'm going to the next level up to be setting it at the high setting. And then I'm just going to click OK. Now that I have the work area set up, I want to be able to go ahead and start the project. Now, the size of the project that we're going to do, I'm going to make it very similar to the same size. You don't want to have a lot of the white space around it. You want to keep that to a minimum. To be able to begin this project, and I want to be able to expand on what I was doing last time, I'm going to go down and click on the Modeling tab. And what you show here is the components, and it shows level 1. Now, we're going to do a dish again, similar to what I did before, but this time we're actually going to bring in the clip art and create it and set it into the dish, unlike what we did with the eagle. So what I want to do on this level 1, I want to right click on this and I want to rename this. And what I'm going to do is just call this the dish. This renamed. I want to go and find my dish. So I want to go back to the clip art. And in the Vcarve Pro, a lot of the different clip art comes with it. And what I'm going to do is go down and look at the domes and the dishes. Now, they have a variety here. This first one, it's a 30 degree. This next one is a 45 degree. This one is 60 degree. And this one is a little bit larger. This one's at 90. And for the clip art that we're going to be putting in this, I think I'm going to go ahead and start with that. So you just double click it and it goes ahead and puts it right into the center. Now that I have the dome in place, I want to go back and show you under the modeling tab, we had the dish and now we have the dome dish, and that's the 60. So that's what is in place. Now I want to resize this. I do not want to keep it round, because the fleur-de-lis that I'm putting into this is going to be much taller than it is wide. So I'm going to go back over to the Drawing tab. Under the Transform Objects, I want to be able to hit the Select Object Size. Now, right now it's linked together for the X and Y, and I want to unlink that. And I'm going to put this, instead of the 5.5, I'm going to go ahead and put this at 6.5. And then I want this taller, and I want to be able to put this at 8.5. And then we're going to hit apply. So that gives me now a nice oval to be able to work with. Now, what I want to show you too, right now, if we rotate this, this is actually a very high dome. And we've got to reverse that. I want to be able to make this into a dish. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back. And we're going to turn this object into a dish so that my fleur-de-lis can actually sit down inside of that. Now, something else that I want to point out to you is that if I hover the mouse over this object, you can see down here at the very bottom exactly how tall it is. So if I go right up here toward the center, that's 1.8 inches. So pretty close to 2 inches high. And as I move this along to the edge, you can see how that changes. So that's a nice reference point to be able to utilize when you're working with the drawings. And I said earlier, I was going to expand quite a bit from what I did on that first video. So this is part of it. Now I want to be able to go and create the dish. So what I do is go right down here to the modeling tab. I want to make sure that my dome dish is selected. Then I go up here to this little wrench icon and we're going to click it. Now at this, I don't want this at 1.8 inches. That's going to be far too deep, if you will, or at this point, it's too tall. So we're going to change that. And I think about, whoops, let's get it highlighted. Think about a 1/2 inch deep. We've got 3/4 inch material. If I go a 1/2 inch, that might be a little bit too deep. Let's go ahead and go with 3/8 of an inch. So that would be 0.375. And I want to be able to, instead of have this dome, I want to be able to have it where it is a dish. I'm going to select this one right here. And then you can see that that updates. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that out now. And let's take a look at this. Now it looks completely different. So I want to be able to rotate this again, and you can see now how it looks where it is truly a dish. You also notice too that it looks like it's just suspended in the air, and that's because it's negative space. And from the standpoint of working with the negative space, we need to get a reference plane in there, which will make it a whole lot easy to be able to see, to work with, and to be able to carve. So I'm going to go right up here to where it has this add a plane component with the 0 height. So I'm going to click on that, and it adds this plane into it. And now when I rotate this, now it looks more like a piece of wood. And that 0 plane is put in there, and you can see exactly what's happening now. I'm going to go ahead and reset this back. So now we have the dish to be able to work with, and we can see the representation over here. So everything has been updated at this point. So now that I have this part completed, the next thing I want to be able to do is grab the clip art and be able to start working with being able to put that clip art into this dish. And what I'd like to be able to do is create another layer and be able to actually put that fleur-de-lis into that new layer. So what I'm going to do now is go back to the modeling tab, and I want to be able to come right up here to the dish because that is our first level. And I'm going to right click on that, and I look down here and it says insert a new level. So I'm going to click on that. So now you can see that the new level has been added, and it's right above the first level, right above the dish. So now I just want to right click on this, and I want to come down and rename this. And I want to just be able to label this as the fleur-de-lis. Now that will take care of the name for the new level. So I have this second layer checked here. So I want to go down to my clip art again. And now let's go down and find the fleur-de-lis. I think it's under Objects and People. Let's scroll down. Okay, didn't see it. Let's go back up to the main clip art. And we'll just scroll down with the whole file. There it is. So I'm going to double click that, and that will bring the object into my work area now. Now when I double clicked, it brought it directly into the center, and that's what I want. But if you'll notice, there's an awful lot of room around this, and I want to be able to take advantage of as much of this dish space as I can. So in the last video, I just grabbed the little handle and moved it and then had to recenter it. Well, one of the things that you can do is hold the shift down and then grab the little arm and move it out, and you can keep it in the center. And I think right about there would be good. Now you can see how that's going to look like it's going to be a little bit above, and that's okay, because what I'm looking for right now is being able to have this around where it maximizes the space within the dish. So next, I want to be able to control the height, because right now this is higher than my flat plane, and I can't have that. So we're going to be able to change the height next. So to adjust the height of this, we're going to come back to the modeling tab, and we're going to adjust the height of it. So I can click on this wrench again, and what I need to have is this set, the shape height, it now is showing at 0.27.06. And what I want to be able to do is change that, because we know the depth of the dish is at 0.375, 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and put that in, 375, and I'm going to select OK. And you'll notice that it's still high. Why is that? Well, the reason being is the bottom of that dish is 3/8 of an inch. So it's only measuring at that point. And as we get out to the edge, it's much shallower. And as we rotate this, you can see how all of the center is flat, and the only edge that you see is at those two little ends. That's what we're going to have to be able to address. So let me go ahead and reset that now. Well, there's really a couple of ways to do this. One of the things I could do is just reduce the size of the fleur-de-lis to the point where this is back below the surface. But then that would also give me a lot of space inside this dish. The other option would be to be able to take and use a different dish that had steeper sides on it. There's still another technique where I can actually blend this dish with the fleur-de-lis and have it taper down into it. And that's what I want to be able to do. And this is a little bit more of a complicated process to do, so we're going to walk through this step by step on how to do it. And what I'd like to be able to show you is just how much this is sticking out above it. So if I come back over here to this little icon right here, which says Scale Z Height of the model, and I want to be able to click on that. Now if we look at this, we're going to look at the minimum Z height is a negative 0.3707, and the maximum Z height is a 0.1513. And that's the problem. This is how much higher that is actually sticking up above that Z plane. And that's the problem. That's why you see this graphic representation over here, and the same thing down here. It's actually sticking up 0.1513 of an inch too high. And that's what we have to be able to fix. Now, if this was actually sitting completely inside the dish, the maximum Z would actually be reading 0. And obviously that's not the case here. So you see it here with the numbers, and you see it here with the graphic representation. Now, if I didn't check that, and I actually went to be able to carve this, this would not look like this. It would be a flat area, and that would not look good. We would lose the whole effect of having this fleur-de-lis, because I certainly would not want that to be carved off and make it flat. So this is why it's very important to be able to check this, make sure that it's completely recessed into the dish. What we're going to do now is go through a different technique. And what's going to happen is I want to be able to mold this fleur-de-lis where it's going to blend down into the edges of this dish. And that's going to give me the look that I want, and it's going to reduce the height of the fleur-de-lis so it will be below the surface. Now, to begin this process, what I want to be able to do is explain one thing. When we're doing these designs, we're actually building from the bottom up. And when we're building from the bottom up, you have the dish that was created, and then the fleur-de-lis is added into it. And that was added to this particular project. And what we need to be able to do is actually grab this and bring it down before it goes into here. So these are actually two components that we can work with. Now I just dragged the dish level and put it above my fleur-de-lis, which is my second layer. And now that I've done that, you notice that this is green. The green is actually indicating that it's below the original layer. And I need to be able to work with these two layers on the dish and this fleur-de-lis before they combine together. Now what I'm going to do is create a new level here. So I'm going to right click on this one and we're going to insert a new level. And this level, I'm going to right click again, I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to just type in merge, because that's what we're actually doing. We're merging the fleur-de-lis into the dish. So now what I want to be able to do is select the two files that are in the dish, and I'm going to hold down the shift key and select both of them. Then I'm going to right click on the mouse and I'm going to hit duplicate. Now then, with those two selected, I'm going to take those and drag those right down into the merge file. So now I have the exact copy here, and I have those items into the merge file. Now the next thing that I want to do, since this merge file is identical to this one, and the merge file is what we're going to be changing, I want to turn off the dish, and I also want to turn off the fleur-de-lis file. And the only thing that I want to work on is this one right here. And what I'm going to do is just maximize this at this point. Now I have the dome highlighted, and what I want to be able to do is take this dome shape, and I want to be able to, for the moment, change the height of it to 1 inch. And I want to be able to make this as a positive. So that's going to make it where it's going to be raised up above. Let me zoom that in so that you can see that. Now anything that's going to be in that, which is the fleur-de-lis, is going to be set the same way, and it's going to have the max height there, and then it'll taper down to those edges. So I'm going to reset that back. Now the next step that we have to be able to do is take this, right click on the merge, select the combine mode, and we want to multiply. So what I've done now is just, after I did this multiply, I went ahead and just selected the fleur-de-lis, and it goes ahead and displays that in here. Now it shows really a very subtle change, and that's all that we need to have happen at this point. Now it actually has it where the two are merged together, and the way you can see this very subtle change, if you look at this top area, and if I turn off the merge, you can see that slight difference, and then I turn it back on, you can see that change in this top and this edge all the way around. So you know by doing that, that this process has worked. Now at this point, because we know that this has worked, if I went ahead now and selected the dish, now it all should fit in there. And let's rotate that and take a look. And now you see that there is nothing standing proud of my Z height. So that is an excellent, excellent way to be able to do that. It's just a little bit more complicated. So now what I want to do is come back up to the 2D, and let's split these out. Now it looks like this has disappeared, but what happened is when I created this merge of these two, it created another Z-plane that's actually covering over this. What I can actually do is click on that, right-click it, and then I can move this layer over to my zero plane. And now you can see that that object is back where it needs to be. Now you also notice that the fleur-de-lis is not showing. So what's happening is this oval is now in front of the fleur-de-lis. So all I need to be able to do is right click on that, and then I can move this to the back. And when I move that to the back, and then I click off of it, now you can see the fleur-de-lis back in the position. Now, as far as being able to select that, now you can see very clearly this is a grayscale of my objects. And you can see over here how it looks in a 3D view. Now, what I'd like to be able to do is put in a vector around the outside of this, and then I want to extend another one out because I'd like to be able to put in Mardi Gras for 2020. Now, what I can do to be able to get my vector around this outer edge is go ahead and select the draw ellipse, and I want to use my anchor point right there in the center for my X, Y, and 0. The width is going to be the 6.5 inches, 6.5, and this was 8.5, and then I can go ahead and create that. And that gives me that line right there, and then I can close that out. And I can highlight that. There you can see that line. So that vector's in place. And then what I can do is create another vector. I can just do this with the offset. And I want to be able to go outward, and I'd like to be able to go out 1 inch. So I can create that offset, and there it is, and I can close it. So now I have room to be able to put the text in here that I want to be able to do. Now I know that this is now 1 inch, so I want to go ahead and set up the text, and I want to type in Mardi Gras, and I also want to type in the 2020. And as far as the size of the text, I want to be able to have that at 0.75 of an inch. And as far as the type, let's just start out with the Times Roman, and we'll go with that. Now I want to break this into the two components because I'd like to be able to put Mardi Gras up here, and I'd like to be able to put the 2020 down on this end. So what I'm going to do is right click that, and then I want to break this text into the block into lines. So now I have this as one line. I can slide that right up here, and I can take my 2020 and we'll just slide it right down here for the moment. Now what I'd like to be able to do is have this text wrap around in this space. And the same thing I'd like to be able to do on the bottom is have that text roll right around this area. Let's select that. There we go. I'll use that one. And now I can actually highlight this, click on that, and I can cut the vector. I can come over to this one, right click on that, and I can cut that vector. And now in essence I have two different vectors. I can come and highlight this one, and you can see that that is highlighted now, and this one is off. Likewise, I can come in and highlight this one, and you can see that. So now I have two different vectors. What I can do next is just highlight this one, and then I'm going to hold the Shift key down and select both of them, and then I can put the text on there. Now it's right on the line at this moment, so what I can do is be able to go ahead and establish the offset distance. Now I know that this was 3/4 of an inch, so I can actually split the difference and put my offset at 0.125, and that will have an 1/8 inch above and an 1/8 inch below. And then I'm going to come down and do the same thing at the bottom. I'm going to highlight this and then hold the Shift key down, highlight my numbers, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Now you can see right now that this ended up above And what I want to be able to do is select this one below the curve, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the offset at 0.125, and that should take care of it. We'll close that out. And now that looks real good. Now, if I want to change the spacing of this, what I need to be able to do is go ahead and come over here to this icon right here, edit spacing in the curves. Let's select this, and then I can hold the shift key down, and then I can click the mouse, and I can extend those out. And I think that is going to be better to do. And I can do this with any of them and get that spacing where it's just going to look a little bit better, and space the letters out. And let's see, I think one more here. That looks pretty good. I'm going to get one more there, and that looks great. And if I wanted to subtract it and make it smaller, release the shift key and click on the mouse, and it will reduce that space. So there we go. I think that looks good. The 20/20 down at the bottom, I actually like that, so we're going to leave that one alone. So now we have the project completely finished, and what I want to be able to do now is go ahead and set up the tool paths. Now in this particular case, because we're doing this dish type, I don't want this cutting down, so I'm going to actually leave this at 0. And I can use this slider to move it all the way up to make sure it's 0, or I can type in 0. Everything else is going to be fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and set up the tool paths. And this first one, because we're really doing so shallow, I do not need to do a roughing pass. So what I'm going to do is select the finishing pass, and I am going to select it where it's going to be on this selected vector. Now I have to select the vector here, but I also have 2 vectors, so I need to combine those vectors back together. So what I'm going to do is highlight both of these. So I'm going to hold the shift key down and select the second one, and then I can hit J on the keyboard, and that is the join vectors. So all I need to be able to do is just select and have one and join them. And now that joins these vectors together. And I can highlight that, and now you can see that it's one continuous line again. I could also have used this icon right here, and it would have worked the same way. So now let's go back over and redo the tool paths. Now just to double check everything, I do have the 1/8 inch ball nose bit selected. I do have this set for the 9% at 80 inches per minute, so that's all okay. I do have the selected boundary with no offset. So that's going to be important, because all I want to be able to carve is just in this area. We are doing this with the rasper, and we're going to set this up now. I want to change the name to a floral de lis. And then we'll calculate that. And now since we're in the preview toolpath, I can go ahead and hit preview, and that is what it's going to look like. I think that's going to be great. Now then, we're going to close this window out, and the next thing that I'm going to do is select my text. I'm going to hold down the shift key and get that, and we're going to select the Vcarve. Now, to be able to set up the Vcarve toolpath, I went ahead and I have the words highlighted. And now I'm going to go over here, and my start depth is going to be at 0. I do not want a flat depth, so that's going to be turned off. And I'm going to use a 90-degree V-bit. And then I'm just going to go ahead and calculate this. And now you can see exactly what that's going to look like, and we'll hit the preview. Now, one of the things that I just caught, or I should say my wife caught this, that this is 2020. We've moved into 2021. So I need to go back and close out this. And we need to go back over to the drawing tab. And we need to change the text. And we need to change this to 2021. And then we'll hit OK. And you see that updated just exactly the way it needed to be. So even though this was a mistake, it was a nice mistake to make so that you can see how easy it is to be able to edit it. Now with that done, and it's still, the spacing is fine, let's go back over to the tool paths, and we're going to do the Vcarve. We're still going to have this at 0 with no flat depth, 90-degree V-bit, and we're going to come right down here and calculate this again. Oops, I do have to select it. So let's select the Mardi Gras. Let's hold the Shift key down, select the 2021, and then we'll calculate that. And that actually looks real good. So that has everything. Now I do need to reset this so it takes care of my one, and then we're going to preview it again, and now it looks as it should. So this particular one right here, I want to delete. And now I have just the correct one in position. Now I want to go back over to the 2D for a moment. And I want to be able to unselect this one. And I want to be able to select my outer one. And for this, we're going to go ahead and cut this out. And to cut this out, I'm going to go ahead and use a profile bit. We're going to use the start depth at 0. We are going to cut down all the way through the surface. And this is 3/4 inch material. I am going to go down to 0.76. I'm going to use my 1/8 inch end mill to be able to do this. I don't need to have 16 passes. We're going to edit the passes, and we're going to cut this down to about 10 passes. That will be plenty. I'll hit OK on that. Now I do want to separate this last pass, and what I want to do is just make a very slight allowance. And we'll put in about a 0.02, and what that will do is it will make a very clean path all the way around on that last one. Rethink this. I'm going to take out the tabs, so there's no tabs, and I'm going to use my glue and tape method to be able to hold this down. So let's recalculate this. Yes, it will get that warning. It will cut all the way through. And now, if I look at this, I want to preview all tool paths. And that looks good. Now, if I want to change anything, now's a real good time to change it. If I want to put a beveled edge around here or any kind of an edge, this would be the time to go back and change it. Okay, after looking at this, I have decided to go back in and change the size of the letters. I'm going to change this from 3/4 inch down to the 0.625 and get this a little bit smaller so there's a little bit more of the white space underneath it. So to be able to do that, I'm just going to click this icon, click on my 2 space. I'm going to get rid of that edge that's highlighted. Okay, because these are both separated now, I'm going to have to do them individually. And since the Mardi Gras now is highlighted, I'm going to select this at 0.625. And I'm going to close that one. And then I'm going to take this one down here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come up to the text, and I'm going to put in here the 0.625. And that will take care of it. Now then, I need to go ahead and take a look at the text on the line. So I'm also going to highlight this. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to select that. I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to select the text on a line and see what it does. It moves it right around. So that's not what I want. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to come up here and edit, undo the text on the line, bring it back to where it was. And then I'm going to select my line and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to right click and I'm going to cut the vector. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Cut the vector. Yeah, that is good. Hold down the shift key, select that one, do my text on my line, and then I'm going to change the offset to 0.2 of an inch, and that looks much better. And let's do the same thing to the bottom. So we'll close this, get out of that mode totally. I'm going to highlight my bottom portion of the text, hold down my shift key, select that, go back into my text on the curve and put this at 0.2. And that looks a whole lot better. And then at this point, I want to go ahead and deselect those. I'm going to highlight this one, hold down the shift key, get my other vector done, select this, join them, and now I can go back and recalculate everything. That looks, I think, a whole lot better. So I'll go back over to the toolpaths, and the finishing path did not change. The Vcarve, however, did. Nothing up here changed. The only thing I need to do is just hit calculate. Now I want to reset this, and I want to preview all of my toolpaths. And that looks real good. I like that space in there better. I'm going to double click that to get rid of it. I think that looks real good. Let's go carve this. Let's go ahead and save the toolpaths, and we'll be ready to carve it. Now, I'm not showing the full setup on everything with the CNC machine because I did that in the last video. And this one is getting just a little bit long. So I'm going to try to cover all the steps, but I'm going to make it as short as I can due to the length of this video. Now I'm using a universal G-code sender, which is the UGS, to be able to send this information or this G-code over to the computer. And you can see how it is carving. It's looking really, really good so far. Now one of the things you can see is a slight groove on that right side again, and I found out what it was. Found out a little bit late, but I found out what's causing it. One of the strips on my wasteboard actually came loose a little bit, and it's actually slightly higher. So even though I've got everything glued and taped down, I also put a screw in it, but it still was a little bit too high, and that's what's causing that. But still in all, it's looking fantastic, and just a slight bit of sandpaper is all that's going to be necessary to be able to correct that. Now at this point, it's just finishing up the finishing pass, and I think it looks really good. There are no flat spots at all on the fleur de lis. It looks fantastic. So I'm real happy with the way this turned out. Total time to do the finish pass, 1 hour, 6 minutes. Not bad. The finishing pass has been completed. I've changed bits. I'm putting in a 60-degree bit, and yes, I did. I went back and changed it in the program and recalculated it. So now I'm actually ready to load the next program and do the V-carving. Because I know where my XY 0 point is, all I need to be able to do is do the Z probe, and then I can actually start carving. And I do that over on the side where I have the original surface. Now every now and then my computer hits it where I hit the button once and it actually hits twice. After using a Z-probe and resetting the XY axis, you notice that my Z axis is actually above the work surface, and that's as it should be because it carved down. So now I'm actually ready to load the file. Let's start carving those letters. I'm real glad that I went back and changed to the 60-degree V-bit because this is absolutely looking fantastic. The letters are crisp, sharp, and they look really good. You never should be afraid to be able to make changes. All it takes is just to go back into the drawing tab and wherever section that you need to, make the change, and then go back and recalculate the tool paths. Not a big deal. I'm glad that I did. Never settle on something just because you don't want to make a change. It's not hard to do, and the results pays for itself. Now to do the V carving with the Mardi Gras in the 2021 in there, it took almost 4 minutes. Now at this point, I've already changed the bit over to the profile bit. So at this point, all I need to do is just go ahead and do the Z probe again, and we'll get this project cut out. Now the profile cut is cutting on the clockwise direction, and it's going to do that on every one of the passes until the last one. The last one, I set it to be able to reverse and go the opposite direction. So this took 6 minutes 20 seconds to be able to do the profile cutout. Not bad. So this whole project did not take that long to be able to carve at all. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of my patrons. The support that the Patreon community has given me is fantastic. I hope you liked this video today. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification next to it so that you'll be notified on the upcoming videos, because I still have more planned. Thank you for watching today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.